Okay, thank you for waiting. So, welcome everyone to the Ministerial Forum on Sustainable Wood. This forum wraps up 2 days of high-level discussions on the matters at hand, the forest, and the sustainability and the role that forests play. First off, my name is Sun Jie, invited professor at Ewha Women's University. I'll be moderating this forum and then guiding you through the proceedings that follow the forum. As you would have discussed, since the Congress opened yesterday, forests and wood play a key role in addressing environmental issues, climate change, biodiversity loss, and the emergence of new diseases. Enhanced sustainable use of wood has high potential to cost-effectively contribute to achieving carbon neutrality. It can also create potential synergies with economic recovery of rural areas and sustainable circular economy innovation goals. As you will hear today in this forum, a number of countries are already interested in the sustainable wood use and are trying to develop their policies. This timely session will give us an opportunity to progress discussions on the sustainable wood from country and regional levels to the global level. We will be focusing on 2 objectives. One is to exchange each country's experience and policy perspectives and ambitions on sustainable wood, and second, to discuss scaling up actions and collaboration on sustainable wood-based pathways. Now, first, to set the stage for today's discussion, I would like to invite Ms. Maria Elena Semedo, the Deputy Director of FAO, to provide us with opening remarks. Ms. Semedo, could I invite you up onto the stage and to this podium?
Thank you and good afternoon to all. Excellencies, ministers, vice ministers, distinguished delegates, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining this Ministerial Forum on Sustainable Wood. The world faces a huge challenge, and we have to overcome the social and economic consequences of the pandemic. We have to stop and reverse environmental deterioration. There will be no healthy economy on an unhealthy planet. We need cost-effective and equitable solutions that can be implemented rapidly and at scale. Forests and trees can provide powerful solutions. If we use them more wisely, we can address pressing environmental problems and economic recovery needs at the same time. When managed sustainably, forests and trees provides a renewable, sustainable source of carbon-neutral, high-value material, wood. As highlighted in FAO's flagship State of the World Forest Report, launched yesterday, global consumption of all natural resources is expected to more than double in 2060. Currently, only 25% of total material demand is met through renewable resources, including wood. Sustainable wood offers solutions across multiple value chains, including construction, packaging, renewable energy, biomaterial for clothing, and biochemicals. In construction, for example, wood stores carbon for up a lifetime and is therefore a great substitute for materials with high carbon footprint. Packaging made from wood fiber could replace plastic. FAO is committed to support members' scale-up efforts to build back better and greening towards more efficient, more inclusive, more resilient, and more sustainable agri-food systems, including with sustainable wood. Under our Sustainable Wood for Sustainable World program, FAO helped countries make wood value chains more sustainable by implementing modern production techniques and integrating social protection for workers and financial literacy programs. The FAO Forest Law Enforcement, Government and Trade flagged program has supported over 200 projects in 40 tropical timber production countries to improve forest governance and support legal timber trade. We, as FAO, look forward to the outcomes of this ministerial forum, which we'd like to bring to the attention and further discussion at the upcoming FAO Committee on Forestry, COFO, later this year. I look forward to learn from you, based on your experience and policies, how sustainable use-based solution can be scaled up to contribute more to building carbon neutral and resilient economy. Looking forward to your discussion. I thank you for your attention. Over to you.
Thank you very much. You have really laid out the urgency of the issue at hand in terms of sustainable wood, and also really increased our expectations about the learning that we are expected to have today. Now, today we have 6 high-level participants to address the issues that you have just raised. Right now, let me invite all our 6 participants up onto the stage to take their seats, and we shall start our proceedings. Our participants, could you come up onto the stage, please? Thank you. Now that our participants have taken their seats, let us start the session. We start off with our host from the Republic of Korea, Minister Choi Byung-am from the Korea Forestry Service. If you could address what Korea's experiences with sustainable wood use, the policies and initiatives are, Minister Choi.
네, 다시 뵙게 돼서
Yes, thank you. It's a great pleasure to meet you all once again. I am Choi Byung-an, Minister of the Korea Forest Service. It is truly an honor to host this session at the World Forestry Congress that invites diverse countries to share their experience and expand discussion on sustainable wood. On behalf of the host country, I would like to extend my gratitude to each minister from all countries for participating in the Ministerial Forum on Sustainable Wood. And my appreciation also goes out to everyone in the audience that has taken the time to take part in today's meaningful discussion. We can say that forestry in this climate change era is not just a primary industry that we're talking about. What happens is they can store carbon. So it's a carbon storage industry. And if you look at the timber industry, it's not just a typical construction material type of industry. It's about storing carbon once again. So we really need to take a different approach to these industries and understand the key meaning and value it carries. In that aspect, forestry and the timber industry is something that the state and the global community needs to take note of in order to overcome the climate crisis. We need more interest in this matter, and we need the right promotion strategy to grow these industries. the forestry and timber industry of Korea is something that I would like to introduce to you today during my talk. So first, the Republic of Korea is a country that has succeeded in forest restoration, which the international society recognizes. Korea has carried out nationwide projects for forest restoration from 1960s to 1990s. And after we restored the forests, we've been focused on making sure that they are well managed. So as mentioned, it's true that we had such minimal grounds for forests, but as of 2018, which was less than 10 basically, we now have a forest growing stock of more than 162 cubic meters per hectare. However, it was only 10 cubic meter per hectare in the past, but we've been able to restore our forests. One aspect Korea's forestry policy focuses on is how to utilize mass quantities of trees. Korea now moves beyond just planting and growing trees and has entered an era to achieve circular economy for forest resources by sustainable wood use. To meet this end, the Forest Service transitioned the direction of its forest policies from just tending, cutting, and planting to tending, cutting, using, and replanting. So you can see that we've been focused on this virtuous cycle in our forestry policies. And in the process, we wanted to facilitate the use of the produced timber. And because we know that the timber products can store carbon, we wanted to make an even more amicable environment for the timber to carry and store such carbon. We are also emphasizing wood's carbon absorbing functions through sustainable wood use, including enhancement of wood use as a policy task to achieve carbon neutrality by 2050. Korea has been implementing from 2013 the law on the sustainable wood. And the law was designed to respond to climate change through sustainable wood use and improve the livelihood of the Korean people and contribute to the development of the regional economy. The Korean Forest Service every 5 years, based on this law, establishes a comprehensive plan on the sustainable wood use. And every year, we have been carrying out a statistical survey on sustainable wood use, including the production, distribution, and consumption of wood products every year. Also, we have been implementing a quality marking system for wood and wooden products to improve domestically produced and imported wood products, secure their stability, and enhance consumers' trust. Particularly, if we look at the domestically harvested wood and wood products, they are globally recognized materials for its storing carbon function and is reflected in the performance on national determined contributions. And the increased use of domestic use is indeed quite beneficial and desirable. And we are committed to building an integrated platform that manages the overall process, starting from production to consumption of domestic timber, to use timber by their added value. And through this effort, we aim to increasingly reduce our NDCs, linking with carbon storage management system and indication certification system. And in the cities, we have steel and concrete. They are carbon-intensive materials. And it's important to make sure that we replace such materials with eco-friendly carbon-storing materials like timber, which will help us materialize the vision of a carbon-neutral city. And we want to expand timber construction in constructing public buildings. Wood architecture is a way to store carbon that trees had absorbed while growing for the longest period of time. And in Korea, we have many ancient temples that have been used that are constructed with wood that dates 1,000 years back in history. And it is a very important sector in sustainable wood use as it increases added value of timber. And in the process, we aim to build a wood value chain at the regional level and reduce a carbon footprint by using locally produced timber. But of course, in Korea, it's true that we do depend quite significantly on imported timber. Only 16% of the timber is domestically harvested. And the reason for that is because we have a relatively short history in forestry and because of the overall age of forests is quite young. So this is a limitation that's only natural. But going forward, we will be trying to increase the supply of domestically harvested timber. We do know that that day will come. So the use of domestic timber, we believe, will increase going forward. As mentioned, we have a lion's share of imported timber. So what we're doing is join the global effort in the use of sustainable wood by creating a system for imported timber. Also, what we want to do is also understand that around 30% of the world's wood products that cause complicated problems in terms of society, environment, and economy are estimated to be illegally harvested. And the value of the wood harvested in the process is estimated at $100 billion annually. And in response to this, there is a growing need that consuming countries as well as producing countries control demand for illegal timber. And APEC has been playing an important role in encouraging countries to adopt a system that only allows legal timber and wood products to be produced, distributed, and traded. So Korea is also actively taking part in this effort. As one of the major timber consuming countries, Korea has been showing a strong sense of responsibility and has been implementing a legal timber trade promotion system to join this global effort in conserving the Earth's forest environment. We authorize whether imported timber and wooden products are legally produced through the system and crack down on imports of illegally harvested timber in timber-producing countries, thereby contributing to the global forest conservation effort. And let me now move on to some of the new technologies that has to do with the timber industry. We are focusing on how we can use timber in the long run. The long-term use has to be guaranteed, and for this to be possible, technological development is key. We have been working on controlling the relationship between timber and moisture and have been developing engineered wood, which meets the required performance of strength and for fire safety. Not only that, we have been working on developing materials with a specific purpose, which can replace carbon-intensive materials such as plastics, steel, and concrete. So we've been conducting a lot of research to find alternatives. And now let me wrap up. Korea is at a turning point for building a circular economy of forest resources by sustainably using timber, going beyond fostering and just tending forests. We believe that we are at this important fork road and we're trying to change our institutions to support this endeavor. And in this regard, I'm looking forward to the list, to the presentations and experiences and views of the ministers that are to share after my speech, which do have a longer history in terms of forestry. So I hope that the aforementioned Korean policies on sustainable use of timber would be of help to the development of policies at a national and global level. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Minister Che. You have really outlined the path that Korea has taken in terms of going beyond just planting and nurturing trees to replanting, reusing, and to going forth in a circular economy and helping Korea becoming a carbon-free country. Now, and of course, Korea's commitment and the challenges that Korea faces as well. Next, let's hear from the Republic of Cameroon. We have from Cameroon, Mr. Jules Dore Dongo, the Minister of Forestry and Wildlife. Mr. Dongo, how would you describe Cameroon's policies in sustainable wood use?
Bien, merci Madame le modérateur de me passer la parole. Excellence.
Yes. Thank you very much, Madam Moderator, for giving me the chance at this intervention. My colleagues, fellow ministers, it is a pleasure for me to meet all of you, and I find it a pleasure to be here at this very important event, especially that we have this opportunity to discuss an important topic for the international community as a whole. Before I begin, I would like to extend my gratitude to the Korean government and to the FAO. The Republic of Korea and the FAO have together hosted and organized this World Forestry Congress, and thank you for that. And I believe just this hosting of the Congress itself is quite successful. Right now, we are facing climate change and erratic climate patterns, and that is why sustainable wood has surfaced as a very important element and a very important issue. And now I'd like to take a few moments to tell you a little bit about my country, Cameroon. Especially when it comes to forestries, we have 4.7 million hectares. In fact, we have about 22 million hectares of the total land mass that is covered by forests. We have savannas and forests leading up to the river basins, so they cover different kinds of topography. And our total forest degradation only accounts about 0.6%. Cameroon's forestry policies are mostly adhering to a 1996 law, and the 1996 law has 8 different kinds of very important provisions. The first is sustainable forest management. The second is contributing to local economic development and overcoming poverty. The third is to encourage the participation of the local communities, biodiversity preservation, and contribute to the growth of private companies, expand forestry management and governance, etc. Sustainable wood, obviously, as you can see, is a very important interest for all of us. Many different public and governmental organizations see this as a very important issue. From the point of view of Cameroon, we want to achieve this goal so that in the market and internationally, and of course domestically, that we can have the ability to produce and sell and distribute this sustainable wood. At the same time, our efforts would mean that tomorrow's forests will be able to respond and adapt better to the changes in the future so that they can be a solution to combat climate change. And to do so, we would need to understand the fact that the forests are a very important income source for local communities. Many people say that for sustainable wood, we have to, of course, protect and safeguard our forests and protect the tropical forests and so that they can be passed on to our future generations. To that end, private companies and private level, the private sector needs to comply with the certification system. So we need to come up with a certification or an accreditation system, if you will, to allow this mechanism to be long-standing and long-lasting. As you know, this industry impacts many other industries as well. For Cameroon, our wood and timber industry sees the third biggest portion of government budget. In fact, it is accounting about 1 million or so jobs and secondary employment that derives from these different primary jobs. Therefore, along with Congo and other different countries on the river basin, we here at Cameroon understand that it's imperative upon us to strengthen our collaboration with other neighboring countries. For us to preserve and conserve biodiversity and also preserve the ecosystem services, these efforts must go in tandem with the efforts of the international community at large. Therefore, Cameroon's national policies have reflected many recommendations that we have seen internationally. Through this, we are hoping to continue to have sustainable management of our forestry resources. Within Cameroon, we have an IT-based government management system, and it is now on its second generation. Through this management system, we are able to accumulate all these different kinds of data on forests in Cameroon. And this is very important because this accumulation of data can allow us to make use of it better, but also by opening it transparently, we can enhance the levels of transparency and also make use of the data to pull very insightful statistical implications from the data as well. And through this, the Cameroon government implements a quota system so that the local communities can also participate in forest protection. Cameroon's degradation rate, as I mentioned, is less than 1%. However, this less than 1% still manages to have a huge socioeconomic impact because the forestry management development activities take up such an outsized portion in our complete country economy. Our forestries, by managing the forestry resources sustainably, we can and will contribute to the achievement of the sustainable vision going forward. And through this, we hope to continue to collaborate with many different stakeholders. And as I mentioned, we will expand on our certification and accreditation system. Ladies and gentlemen, through all of these efforts, we will be able to access sustainable wood. In fact, we could call it organic wood. And we have to continue to go down this path. And this is the correct path. And on this correct path, we have to continue to listen to the recommendations of other interested stakeholders. Through these efforts, and through our will to innovate, constantly innovate, we will be able to engage in this declaration on sustainable wood. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Minister. It was a very interesting introduction into how essential the forestry industry is for Cameroon, as well as your efforts to form multilateral collaborations to make the industry even more sustainable. I understand that the Minister of Cameroon unfortunately has a prior engagement that he has to attend to. So we are going to excuse him for a moment, Minister. So that will sort of wrap up this first part of our session. But the minister, while he's leaving, we'll talk about the fact that he actually brought up a number of interesting aspects. Thank you. About what Cameroon is doing, especially about the IT-based government management system and the other aspects of Cameroon's efforts that are sort of leads into our next topic, which is we are shifting our attention to the issue of scaling up sustainable wood-based pathways. And to start us off on this subject, we have with us Mr. Orita Hiroshi, Deputy Director General of Japan's Forestry Agency. Mr. Hiroshi, how do you see the future potential of scaling up wood-based pathways?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Orita, Deputy Director General of the Japan Forestry Agency. Thank you for inviting me on this special event. First of all, I would like to extend my appreciation to the government of Republic Korea, especially Korea Forest Service and FAO, for their dedicated works on this forum. I appreciate the honorable speakers for sharing their best practices and various experiences so far. Today, I would like to emphasize the importance of sustainable wood production and consumption through a circulation of cutting, utilizing, planting, and growing, which contributes to regeneration and well-balanced forest use. This circulation of forest management has a long history in our country in the form of planted forest management. Today, planted forest accounts for 10 million hectares, about 40% of the forest in Japan. For example, Yoshino, Nara Prefecture, which is said to be the oldest forestry area, has been producing high-quality cedar timber for more than 500 years. These timber products are used for our houses, furniture, and housewares. We have been receiving benefits from wood and wood products in all our lives. However, it is also true that the forestry has been suffering for hard times as wood material has been replaced by steels, concretes, or plastics in the modernization of living and industrialization. Therefore, in 2025, we started a national campaign to boost momentum for the promotion of sustainable wood use as a public-private partnership initiative. Nowadays, under the slogan of Wood Change, we are approaching the realization of a sustainable society. Since 2021, a public-private platform for encouraging wood use has been established. It includes a wide range of stakeholders and variety of organizations such as suppliers, processors, and consumers. The platform focuses on promoting wood use for commercial and office buildings. And for the government policy setting, the Act for Wood Use Promotion in Public Buildings was enacted in 2010, which urges central and local governments to promote wood use in their own low-rise buildings for public use. In 2021, the Act was revised to expand its scope to include private sector buildings. At the same time, it newly declared that the promotion of sustainable wood production and consumption through a circulation of forest management contributes to the realization of decarbonized society. In this way, Japan is making steady progress in sustainable wood use through both public-private partnerships and policy frameworks. For international cooperation, we started an ITTO project, promotion of sustainable domestic wood consumption in Vietnam. Due to high dependency on export, Domestic wood consumption in timber-producing countries is not increasing. However, relying solely on export is susceptible to the international market, and economic stability will not be available. On the other hand, if these countries with rapidly growing populations and economies can expand their own wood consumption, they will contribute to the realization of decarbonized society and green recovery through carbon trade, substitution of energy-intensive materials, and fossil fuels. For scaling up of sustainable wood use globally, I believe it is important that countries share experience in promoting sustainable forest management and sustainable wood use. In this context, I would like to share our lessons learned through our efforts over the past 20 years. At the same time, I think it is necessary to establish a forum for dialogue among countries, given that the variety of circumstances surrounding forests in each country. Japan would like to continue to contribute to promotion of sustainable forest management and sustainable wood use through ITTO and FAO, maintaining constructive dialogue and dissemination at opportunities such as this forum. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. It's very interesting, and the emphasis being on the private-public partnerships, and also your call for sharing of lessons that each country has learned in such forums like the one that we are in today. Next, we go to Europe. We have with us Ms. Maria Patek, Deputy Director of the Agriculture, Regions and Tourism from the Republic of Austria. Ms. Patek, what are your views on the technical and practical exchange, and especially on the subject of scaling up of wood-based pathways?
Yes, thank you so much. Good evening, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues. First of all, I would like to express my deep admiration to the Republic of Korea and FAO for organizing this outstanding conference under these difficult circumstances. Thank you so much for this invitation and for opening the dialogue here on wood-based pathways. And let me just shortly introduce what we are currently implementing in Austria before looking at the opportunity of upscaling. Austria has a long tradition in using wood as a construction material as well as wood policy development. Sustainable forest management is the basis of a successful export-oriented wood-based industry in Austria. The sector provides significant income and jobs, especially in rural areas. This is of crucial importance for the regional development of our alpine country. We see increasing challenges related to climate change and socio-economic global developments, which nevertheless offer new opportunities, such as the increased substitution of fossil fuels with renewable resources. And the Austrian government has successfully implemented an Austrian Forest Fund in 2020, offering additional funding of 350 million euros for the forest-based sector, including the Austrian Wood Initiative. We put a lot of focus on strengthening the wood-based sector to efficiently utilize the renewable resource wood through funding of research, education and training, as well as concrete measures regarding to the innovative material and energetic use of wood. Building and living with wood summarizes the lifestyle approach we are fostering. This goes hand in hand with a new European Bauhaus proclaimed by the European Commission, incorporating art, environment, ecosystems, and a healthy way of living, as well as the Sustainable Development Goals, both being overarching concepts of a sustainable lifestyle. We are ready to upscale activities at the European and global level. We want to set a clear sign for wood as a nature-based solution. The European Commission's Green Deal sets the goal to become climate neutral by 2050. Wood plays a vital role in becoming a key enabler for the transformation towards a carbon-neutral industry and climate-positive society. This requires joint efforts among countries and stakeholders. This is why Austria, together with Finland, recently started the European Wood Policy Platform WoodPop, which brings together government officials, stakeholders, and interest groups in the pan-European region to evolve wood-based policies and activities. There are so many ambitious initiatives and actions with a special focus on wood and wood-based materials around the world. However, we would gain more weight and impact if we upscale our knowledge and experiences through best practice on the political level. I'm glad that we can discuss the benefits of creating a collaborative platform for wood policy dialogue and technical exchange. Efforts to scale up wood-based pathways on a global scale would need to address the lack of awareness, the start of a global policy dialogue and technical knowledge exchange on the potential of wood. It is of utmost importance to integrate country specificities and diversities, including through technical advice and exchange on innovation and good practices. An open collaborative dialogue platform could facilitate and smoothen cooperation among us. This platform should connect us as decision makers, but also policy experts as well as technical experts, including practitioners and scientists. In this regard, I want to especially highlight the importance of a global science policy dialogue and technical exchange, which IUFO and FAO have excellently facilitated through their outstanding expertise in the last years. We count on their engagement to successfully upscale wood-based pathways. What could be the scope of an institutionalized global dialogue on wood? I see opportunities to foster effective wood policy development and implementation of national and international wood promotion programs, to position the wood building sector as a key driver for inclusive green growth, to stimulate innovation by bringing together policy, science, and practice, to foster research, education, and lifelong learning, and to accelerate awareness raising and communication of wood-based materials and energy in carbon neutral and circular bioeconomies. Austria has been supporting FAO's activities for many years. Initiatives we support are, for example, the Sustainable Wood for a Sustainable World campaign, or the initiative Replaced with Wood, as well as other activities of the Forest Communicators Network. And we are willing to further progress this work. And so I'm happy to announce that we are currently planning to seed fund a project with FAO and IUFO, preparing the scope and structure of a collaborative dialogue platform on wood. And I'm hoping that other countries would be interested in such an exchange and want to join this initiative. Together, we can grow more impact. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It is very interesting to hear about Austria's substantial efforts in sustainable wood, backed by a very substantial forest fund, and also your call for a platform, developing a platform for wood policy dialogue to stimulate a multi-stakeholder dialogue so that we can learn from each other. We now turn to Peru. We have from Peru, Mr. Hilario Lopez Condova, the Executive Director of the National Forest and Wildlife Service. If you could introduce Peru's efforts in these areas and how you view the efforts to scale up sustainable wood-based pathways.
Sí, muy buenas noches.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's a wonderful evening today, and I would like to greet you all, especially on behalf of the Ministry of Agricultural Development. I would like to extend my greetings. Honorable Minister Oscar Garcia has asked me to greet the guests on his behalf. So once again, greetings to you all and congratulations, and my expression of gratitude to the Korea Forest Service of the Republic of Korea. Today, we have been hearing from the colleagues from various countries that are working towards the pathway of sustainable wood. So it's a great pleasure to join you all. Through Peru's wildlife system, forest and wildlife system, we've been focused on the development of forestry as well as sustainable wood use. And we believe that this will all contribute to us achieving the SDGs. Throughout the pandemic period, Peru has learned many lessons. And one of the lessons had to do with our relationship with forests. We now know that we need to have a desirable relationship with forests. In Peru, we have a forest area of 73 million hectares, and this is 50% of the land of the country. So when it comes to wildlife, Peru is putting in a lot of efforts to put in place a national policy. We are trying to introduce public policy and regulations to tackle climate change as well as deforestation. And not only that, in order to achieve a low-carbon society, we are engaging in various activities.
Silvestre, de plantaciones forestales.
So when it comes to wildlife, what's important is to take into account the fact that forest protection is key, and we also need to cooperate with the local community to stop degradation. We're very well aware of this. And for that to be possible, we need to raise the productivity and also understand how we can introduce various ways to access forest resources. We need to continue on to communicate and cooperate with the local community and the indigenous people. And as a national agency and as a Forest and Wildlife Service agency, it's also important to make sure that we put in the right technical and normative efforts to put in place the right institutions. As mentioned, we are a national institution, and we collaborate with many local government institutions and also in the overall production chain. We need to put in place the right institutional framework to increase productivity and enhance the competitiveness of Peru. Through all of these efforts, we aspire to overcome the challenges at hand. Degradation, deforestation is also or are also key challenges, and we're trying to tackle these challenges. Technological development and innovation will help us in the process. So we're trying to introduce many technological tools and solutions. We also need to make sure that we have the right environment for dialogue. We need to communicate and share with other countries, and in that aspect, it's a great pleasure to represent Peru at this forum and communicate and share ideas with all of our colleagues here. Also, in timber trade, illegal logging are challenges that we need to respond to, so we need to make sure that we have the right countermeasures to these problems. Not only that, we need to collaborate with the civil society. We need to put in place the right norms so that we can control any illegal acts. And we're trying to encourage the primary industry, and particularly the timber industry is something that we want to promote further. This will help us promote legal timber production, and we think that we can also root out illegal logging or timber production in the process. Legal trade can be encouraged through these efforts, and we can also head towards a more sustainable economy. Not only that, we have a system called Help 4. And what we want to do is promote or protect the environment and forests and enhance productivity and also strike the right balance between the use of forest resources and its protection. And we believe that such platforms can be quite helpful. And another thing that I would like to share with the audience and the panel is the SNF. We're currently putting together a forestry system, a forestry data system. We will be able to put in place an inventory on all wood products or timber products. We will be able to monitor the products and also survey these products and have an inventory system in place. Peru, in all of our forestry products, we want to encourage legal trade. And we also need to make sure that we have the right supervisory framework. So we're doing just that. And we want to, once again, crack down on any illegal acts in this sector. Improving governance is another task at hand. And making sure that we procure legally produced products and carbon neutral products is also another area that we want to concentrate on going forward. And through all of these efforts, we will be able to preserve biodiversity and promote biodiversity and to go beyond to achieving the SDGs. We will put in our best efforts. Thank you very much.
We heard a lot about your country's efforts to face the challenges of deforestation and degradation of forestry, especially your work to work closely with the civil society and the government's efforts to institutionalize all the policies that are going to lead the country to a more sustainable forest in the future. Finally, last but not least, we have the Minister of Water, Forest, the Sea and Environment from the Gabonese Republic, Mr. Lee White. could you share with us your country's efforts on scaling up of sustainable wood, and how you see the future in this direction?
Thank you, and good evening, everybody. When we think about forestry in Gabon, we're a country which is covered by 88% rainforest, and we're one of the countries that make up the Congo Basin. And as you think about climate change, the Congo Basin, with about 8 years of global carbon emissions locked up in the forests, there's no 1.5 or 2 degree future if we don't have the Congo Basin standing. And so, as a country, both in terms of climate change, but then in terms of ecosystem services, the Congo Basin is sending rainfall to the Sahel and to the Ethiopian highlands. And so if we lose those ecosystem services, we end up destabilizing Africa. You would end up with tens, hundreds of millions of climate refugees or ecosystem service refugees. So we have no choice other than to maintain the rainforests. In terms of the economy of our country, traditionally we are an oil economy. Today 60% of our economy comes from oil. And again, because of climate change, that economy is going to disappear over the coming decades. And so, again, we need to look for alternative sources of economy. We need to look for ways to develop a sustainable economy moving forwards. And so, for us, sustainable harvesting of timber and transforming that timber into high-value products, and potentially even increasing the extent of forest in our country by adding plantation forestry, is, we feel, the future of our economy, and it's also the way we can commit the Gabonese people to this challenge of maintaining forests. Because if we can create livelihoods based on sustainable forestry, and particularly transformation of the timber into high-value products, then we can engage the Gabonese population in this task of preserving the forests, and we can make the forests work for the Gabonese people. We can make the forests something that contributes to the livelihood of the people. And so when we looked at 10, 12 years ago, when we looked at the forest economy, for over a century we had been exporting logs to Europe, to the US, to Asia. When you export a log from Gabon to another country, you are basically gifting over 90% of the value, potential value of the timber to that partner country. The cutting and the transport of trees to the port is about 8% of the forest economy. And then as you transform, as you go through first, second, third, fourth level transformation, at each step you double or triple the value of the wood and the number of jobs that you're creating. And so I've already mentioned this before today, but we're very proud of the fact that a couple of months ago we signed a contract with a company to come and make guitars in Gabon. Now, a guitar, a musical instrument made out of ovenkol, one of our precious hardwoods. If you take the log, the value of the timber is about $400 per cubic meter. When you turn that into a guitar, the value of the wood is about $8,000 per cubic meter. And so by becoming a country that not only produces but also transforms our timber, we create a way of adapting to climate change by replacing our oil economy with a sustainable forestry economy. We will, over the next 10 years, go from a forestry industry that employs 30,000 people to a forest industry that employs 300,000 people. A $1 billion forest industry to a $10 billion industry. And if, and this is my job now, if we can guarantee to the outside world that our timber is legal, that our timber is sustainable, that our timber is climate positive, that our timber is biodiversity positive, and that our timber is socially responsible, then we should be able to maintain the market share for decades and maybe even centuries into the future. So we're looking to use sustainable forestry and timber transformation as a mechanism to preserve the forests, as a mechanism to preserve the critical ecosystem services that those forests are providing, not just to our own country, but to countries as far away as Egypt, for example, because as we fill the Blue Nile with water, we help to irrigate and sustain agriculture in Egypt. And this transition, I would say we're about halfway there. Over the last 10 years, we've multiplied our forest economy by a factor of 4. We've increased our jobs by a factor of 3 since banning the export of raw logs. And currently, the end result of that is a country that's 88% covered in rainforest, with almost 0% deforestation. So those rainforests are stable and have been stable over the last 3 decades. And interestingly, when you do forestry the way we do it in the Congo Basin in Gabon, we're doing selective harvest of timber. We're cutting on average about 2 trees per hectare every 25 years. And so we're leaving 90% of the rainforest ecosystem intact. We've increased over the last 10 years, 20 years, our wildlife population. So we're able to prove that our timber harvesting is biodiversity positive. And when we do it right, over a 25-year rotation, you actually increase the carbon stock in the forest. So when you exploit, you do lose some of the more fragile components of the biodiversity. So you need protected areas as a complement to sustained management areas. But you can increase your carbon stocks with sound forest management. And as a result, Gabon today is net absorbing over 100 million tons of carbon dioxide every year. So we are the most carbon positive country on Earth, and we believe that sustainable forestry and timber transformation is the best mechanism to make sure that we remain carbon positive. So rather than aiming for carbon neutrality in 2050, we aim to become more and more carbon positive as time goes by, thanks to sustainable forestry at a national scale, but which potentially, if we are able to share our technology and our methods with the rest of the Congo Basin, could be something that is extended to the Congo Basin scale, because we are only 12% of the Congo Basin forests. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wright. I think your emphasis on the transformation, the timber transformation, as well as the sustainable forestry aspect, especially the example that you give of the guitar, which I'm very much looking forward to listening to, by the way, is something that is of very interest for all of us. Now, it is time for us to move to the audience, but before we do that, I mean, we've talked to Gabon, we've had Cameroon, we've talked about countries on the Congo Basin, but we would be amiss if we didn't talk to the country on the Congo Basin, the Republic of Congo. And I see Minister Rosalie Matondo. Why don't you share your opinions and the example of Congo about the sustainable wood? I would love to hear from you as well. I think is it possible to maybe give her a mic? Yes, yes, we have a gentleman coming down with a mic for you. I think is it working? Yes, yes.
OK. Merci. Excusez-moi.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Once again, thank you very much. I would like to extend my gratitude to the Korean government and FAO for giving me this opportunity to speak before the audience. So I would like to talk about how we manage our forests at Cameroon. As was mentioned by Minister Lee White, he's mentioned about what happens in the Congo Basin. The economy of Congo is very reliant on our forests. In the 1960s, we've been very much dependent on the forests, but then afterwards, it's true that our dependency shifted from forests to oil or petroleum. As was already mentioned, from 1970, we started to establish a forest management policy, and along with the countries of the Congo Basin, we've put together an integrated legislation. We've encouraged the government to actively take part in forest management, and not only that, we've all decided or formed a consensus to selectively use timber or wood. In other words, out of the 3 types of trees, we can only log just 1 out of the 3 for a period of 10, 20, 30 years. And through these efforts, we can promote biodiversity. And out of our forest areas, we've actually segmented or classified the forest areas. We have a total of 5 series or classifications. 1 series have to do with the use of forests. The 2nd series has to do with biodiversity management. And the 3rd series have to do with community development and R&D development. And such dialogue that we're having today is very interesting. And I think that before we go into specifics, we really need to define what sustainable wood is. We believe that for sustainable wood, we need to achieve public-private partnership, which we have actually achieved. So Once again, I want to emphasize that for us as well, we really needed to define what sustainable wood was all about. When developing a certain forest area, how can we use the timber from the forest? Can we call this sustainable? So we needed the right standards, criteria to classify whether a specific type of forest use is, or wood use is sustainable. Therefore, the government, when providing logging rights to a specific private company, would this be appropriate? What kind of rules and regulations should be necessary when granting rights to log? Was something that we needed to have in place if we wanted to make the use of our forests sustainable. We've been seeing illegal cases of trade of timber, so we really did not want the reoccurrence of such events. And that's why we decided to define what legal logging or legal harvesting would look like. In international markets, we've currently operate a certification system on our timber products, and the management of timber products is guaranteed through a system. And to make sure that we track the timber products exported from the country, we have a tracking system that helps us gain visibility on that. So here at Congo, 58% of the timber companies have been certified by us, by FSC. And not only that, they've also been nationally accredited to engage in any forestry or any timber activities. And we want to make sure that our sustainable wood products are sold in legal markets, and we will continue on to introduce other certification programs. Furthermore, the REDD+ protocol is something that we should take into account. This is a very important initiative and task. We need to reduce carbon emissions, and discussions on this is important. Congo overall forest deforestation rates are the deforestation rate of Congo is only 0.06, and when you ask us to prove that our timber products are not the product of deforestation, well, our deforestation rate was very low in the first place. It was very difficult to verify that it comes from legal sources and it's not the product of deforestation. Also, for sustainable development, we're actively engaging in this effort. As mentioned, our deforestation rate is close to 0, so we find it very difficult to prove that the timber products are not from deforestation. So we weren't able to accede to or sign the REDD+ initiative because there was no way for us to verify because our deforestation rates were already very low. But Cameroon is a part of the REDD+, and we also are continuing on to emphasize and stress our will and commitment in REDD+. And regarding forestation and reforestation, we think that this is also a very important initiative for countries. Crop yields or crops are also a key source of income, but timber can also be another key source of income. When we want to send our children to school, and for our livelihood, timber can be used as a significant source of income for the local community. So once again, planting, replanting, or forestation is something that we really need to do. This is an important factor of the equation, which will also contribute to industrial development. Congo started its replanting program or reforestation program, and we are trying to create a forest of 100,000 hectares. So we're working with many stakeholders. We are attracting private investment, and we're seeing a lot of investments actually coming into this project. And we are using 20% of our budget in reforestation, and 10% is being used for the local communities so that they can use the forest in a desirable fashion. Currently, Congo has just passed a new Forestry Act. As was mentioned by Minister Lee White, I am aware that there's a new forest-related act in Gabon, and it's the same case for Congo. We've restricted the exports of logs, and in the Congo Basin, I know that there are a lot of challenges of the countries, and I really wanted to mention that we have our host of challenges here in this region. And that was my short talk on sustainable wood use in Congo. And as I've already mentioned, sustainable wood and defining sustainable wood is important.
I think you have given us a very important and interesting insight into the case of Congo. Unfortunately, that sort of wraps up our session for today. I think so many countries have shared their valuable experiences with us today, that we have sort of ran out of time. So unfortunately, there's not a lot of time for questions, especially because we are actually not quite done with the session as well. We would like to round out this forum. If you do, I have permission to maybe get a question from the audience, or what do you think? I don't see anybody. I see a gentleman way on the back. Maybe one question. Would that be okay? Yeah. The proceedings, I'm just concerned about. Maybe if you could take the mic, sir, and identify yourself and ask a question. Yes. The gentleman, I think the gentleman raised his hand first, but if you'd like to, yeah, I think the gentleman raised his hand first.
Thank you very much. My name is Alfred Gesho, and I come from Kenya. And it's not a question, but I wanted also to share some few remarks that were supposed to be made by Cabinet Secretary, but because he was not able to come, he requested that I take 1 or 2 minutes to share with the team here. And basically, we come from a situation where the populations are increasing, and the demand for wood too to meet their demand. The economies are expanding, and the demand for wood too. In that circumstance, then, it is extremely important that we have within our countries policies that support increased wood production for the expanding population and economies too. We also have a situation where the forest resources are being required to meet additional demands in terms of environmental services. But that said, it's extremely important that all these actions are anchored in law. They are anchored in policies that support sustainable forest management. In Kenya, we have traditionally had a forest plantation belt that has provided most of these wood products. But that same belt is now being required to provide additional environmental services. So we see strongly the need for us to invest in innovative forestry technologies that support increased productivity of our forest, that restore degraded landscapes and promote trees on farms, so that the public forest, for example, provide more of environmental services. Then we need also to catalyze investments in processing technologies. Rather than deal with just production, I think it is important that we start investing in the whole value chain to support our efforts. Investment in land restoration activities, and promotion of payment for environmental services. I think we need to move into a situation where trees and forests make more sense when they are standing than when they are cut, because sometimes it is the value that we attach to tree and wood resources that make it look like that we or communities would want to cut down these trees. Development of innovative credit schemes that will support investments, especially by communities and the private sector. Forestry may not make a lot of sense to a private sector entity unless we are able to attach full value. And this sometimes makes it difficult for communities and the private sector to access credit. Investment in circular economy, bioeconomy, I think these are areas that perhaps we need to invest more to support forestry, the establishment of cooperatives, and in promotion of efficient technologies that not necessarily in wood production. Yes, it is important, but we also need to invest in technologies that support efficient wood utilization, energy utilization, promotion in efficiencies. Even in the public forest belt, there are a number of opportunities for improved efficiency. Some of the technologies we are currently utilizing are inefficient, but we know the market has technologies that can improve on that efficiency. I just wanted to add those few comments on behalf of my team. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I think your emphasis on smart and efficient investments is duly noted by everyone here. Now I apologize, but we actually do now have no time left. So as we round out our forum, I would like to invite Korea's Minister for Service, Minister Choi Byung-am, back onto the podium. He will give us some final remarks. Then he will also read out parts of the World Forestry Congress Ministerial Call on Sustainable Wood. It's a document that has been circulated among the participating countries at this forum as an outcome of this high-level meeting. So Minister Choi, could I invite you up onto the podium?
네, 여러분 감사합니다.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for the productive dialogue, and also thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to deliver my concluding remarks for this forum. So once again, let me express my sincere gratitude to all ministers and representatives who have shared their respective countries' experiences and opinions participating in the session for discussion on sustainable wood. I want to give each other a big round of applause, please. A big hand for all of our ministers for their sharing and for their insights. And my appreciation also go to the participants for their active questions and comments. I hope today's discussion will help advance sustainable wood-related products, the use of sustainable wood, and regarding the use of sustainable wood, and continue to expand ways to focus on wood-based pathways and the scale up of sustainable wood-based pathways. As the whole world experiences the gravity of climate crisis, there has been global consensus on the importance of timber as a material for storing carbon and forests as carbon sink. Timber is an eco-friendly material replacing steel and concrete, which emit a lot of carbon in the whole process from production to waste. The use of timber is the first step for putting carbon neutrality into practice. However, we must stay vigilant. In order to enjoy the benefits that come from the use of timber, we need to make sure to use timber in a desirable and appropriate fashion. Timber harvested by excessive and illegal harvesting could immediately increase the volume of timber that we can use, but in the long run, this might rather be a reason to destroy the environment globally. Therefore, we need to keep thinking about the way we manage forests and use timber in a sustainable manner. And so in terms of institution, in terms of any economic approaches, and we need to continue on to consider the livelihoods of the people. So we need to understand that the efforts to sustainably harvest and use timber should not take a toll on the environment and the future generations. Today, this was a dialogue to share the challenges and the experiences and also scale up the dialogue on sustainable wood. So in that aspect, it was truly a meaningful session. And as the outcome of this dialogue, we will be signing the Declaration on Sustainable Wood, and we will put in our best efforts to continue on with the dissemination or scale up of sustainable wood. And I truly hope that we continue on with this dialogue going forward. The Republic of Korea will continue on to take active part in these dialogue sessions and also try to invite more opportunities. And last but not least, I would like to read a part of the Ministerial Declaration on Sustainable Wood to reconfirm and reaffirm our commitment.
In the Ministerial Forum on Sustainable Wood to call for scale-up sustainable wood-based pathways to address the lack of awareness about their potential, to enhance global and regional policy dialogues on pathways and related synergies and trade-offs and ways to strengthen investment, to significantly increase the use of sustainable wood-based solutions within NDCs by 2030. We also commit to join forces together to promote enhanced policy and technical dialogue and exchange among wood producer and consumer countries and key stakeholders to develop the necessary momentum and actions at scale. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Minister Che. Thank you for sharing all of your insightful experiences, and congratulations to all the participating countries. There's a saying in Korea that nothing is really done without a photo. So I think it is time to finalize this forum by taking a group photo. Could I ask all the participants, and of course, Minister Matondo, to step forward and take a group photo. Ms. Maria Semedo, would you like to join? Why don't you join us on stage? And I've been told by the photographer that the best place is